Welcome to the TryPod, a magical edition of the TryPod tonight, guys. I'm Jacob Wynn. I'm here to break down the 8 games as we get 16 teams descending upon Brisbane, making Brisbane the epicenter of the rugby league world. And I'm going to break down all the action across the 3 days, which kicks off in 3 nights' time from a punting perspective. This is the 11th season of the TryPod. It's the 7th year, if you can believe, of Magic Round. I honestly reckon, just a tangent straight away, I reckon there should be 2 a year. I love Magic Round so much. Leave it in Brisbane. It works so well there, but then rotate it. What's wrong with, let Sydney try having a Magic Round. Melbourne, give them a go. Wouldn't Auckland be amazing? Perth? Let me know if you agree on that. Housekeeping, a poor round from myself. Went 2-2 on best bets there. I took the Bulldogs. I discussed my regrets on that one on the recap. I also took the Dragons, and they were just as bad a day later. But we got unders in Melbourne, and we got a big Cowboys comeback. So it brought us to 17-12 for the season. 59% we are so far. The sharpshooters, who I've really loved, including each and every week, went 2-2, and you better believe they'll be bringing the heat in round 9. As Harry Potter says, where Clarkey at? He's still on paternity leave at this stage. So once again, solo show, and I will be appreciating and leaning into your comments and try and include as many as I can on the screen, as well as hello to those people watching live on Instagram right now. But where do we begin? Where else but with the best bets, mine at least, for round 9, the magical round we have ahead. I have come up with, let me just make sure I get this right, 4 best bets. So I am going Sharks, Eels, either team 1-12. That's $1.87 on 365 because I like Parramatta. I considered playing the +6.5. Great spot ultimately. Para's got off a bye. Sharks played 88 minutes on Sunday night. Eels are a different team with Moses. So I think Eels cover, but I don't think the Sharks will be blown out. So I went either by 1-12. And then I've gone my Fins later on Friday night. I'm going to go first half line plus half a point at $1.88, Ladbrokes and Neds, because I ever so slightly believe the Dolphins win this game. It's a pretty even matchup. It's 2 teams that are both 3-5, both need to win it. I just think the Dolphins are the slightly better team. So I could also take the 1.5 for the game, but as I'll explain, I think half a point for a first half where there's half as many points as there are for 80 minutes is even more valuable, and I got a better price than the full game line. Tempting fate by shortening my bet to 40 minutes with the randomness, but if I've got a team I think wins and I'm getting half a point, they just can't be trailing at the break. On Saturday, I'm taking Newcastle, who have lost 5 in a row, plus 2.5 at $1.90 on Neds, Ladbrokes, and Dabble. And once again, I think that the 5 losses in a row is part of the reason, actually, that this team's just going to be so desperate. Now, mind you, Souths are on a little slide of their own, but basically I think it's anybody's game. I reckon the Knights will win that one with a couple of key forwards coming back in. And, of course, it's simple as this for me. The Souths don't have Cam Murray from the preseason, Cody Walker's injured, and Latrell suspended. So I don't see a massive talent advantage to Souths. I'm not really sure why they are a 2.5 point favourite here, other than just the struggles of Newcastle. But that's what makes this such a must-win game. Peter V'landys, the Finns are legit the best team in the comp. I mean, emotion, excitement got the better of me as I just watched the Dolphins score outstanding try after outstanding try and lead Canberra 28-10 into the break. And I ate crow and humble pie and all the rest. We know how that ended, and I'm going to address that a little bit further. At least I wasn't on the Finns for a best bet last week, so I've actually done really well in the spots I've chosen to play the Dolphins, and that does include this week. My 4th and final best bet is going to be on Sunday. I'm going to take Penrith, Brisbane. Once again, I'm going either team 1-12 because I think Penrith has every chance in this one, but you've got to respect Brisbane at home and just a lot of class on both sides. A rematch of the 2023 grand final, but we know how much Penrith needs this to keep their season alive. I just think it's going to be a rip snorter of a game. It's not that either team can't be blown out, but I just have a confidence there that it's significantly more likely to me that that game is going to be close. There's superstars on both sides, and I think plenty of feeling in it as well. And I'll get more into depth, of course, as I go game by game. And I appreciate your input, as I said before, as the Undertaker's in the house and he's got a best bet, as does the Padonis, who's the hottest of all our sharpshooters. Padonis is, I think, 5-1, if that's right. We've had the sharpshooters for about 5 or 6 weeks. And we've got Benny Williamson, who's won a couple in a row as well. If you need a new bookie for Magic Round, consider Dabble. That's where I first created Try Score a Bingo, which now is commonplace in the punting marketplace. There'll be some special markets for Magic Round as well, and a couple of the best bets this weekend are available on Dabble. The code is TryPod. Still looking for a sponsor that can keep the pod alive. I'll tell you right now, it's on life support, guys. But as long as there is a pod, I'm giving it everything I've got, and I'm doing my very best to produce the best results that we can. And with all that being said, let's just jump straight into Friday night, the early game, Sharks Eels. As you can see with my display, I've got the two teams on the screen. Can I fit the team logos and the 1 to 13? That would be a challenge. Yeah, basically have done it there. So that's something else that you can feast your eyes on other than looking at my mug, that's for sure. Okay, and let's set the table as usual. Well, this is an interesting game to open up the round because you can line up the form of these two sides pretty easily, considering they both have the same most recent opponent. As I said, Cronulla off an emotional 88th minute loss at Leichhardt, a game that the Sharks never led, but had ample opportunities to ice, and they're going to have to think about that all week. While the Eels were cooling their heels off a bye and off a big Easter Monday win that was against those aforementioned Tigers, where Moses returned and worked a miracle of making Parramatta look like a real footy team again. Hiroti is out, but Iro's back in. Tuilagi is suspended for Parramatta. I know that the Sharks are the superior team. You have to make them a favourite. I still think Cronulla are a top 4 level side, and you can call it good team off a bad loss, considering that the Sharks were $1.40 on Sunday and expected to win that one. But I have gone 1 to 12, and as I always explain, that means I've got to make the case for why the underdog is a good shot. And again, I think that bye came at a great time because Parramatta could establish a bit of confidence, double their win tally for the season. There's belief there that we can play at a better level. We actually can find points now that we have our most important and influential player and halfback available again. But the bye allows you to rest up and recover. And I think, but yet this won't be a Parramatta team that's going to rest on their laurels, because they're still second last on the ladder. While we know Cronulla off of defeat is going to play with a hard edge, and where Cronulla does have the big advantage, why they must be a clear favourite, is the forward pack for the Sharkies. But I would say that could be mitigated slightly by the fact that Para has a fresh pack. And even if you're not necessarily winning the yardage, when you do have that mega boot of Mitch Moses, that does compensate a little bit. Even if you're forwards, you don't have to, win the meters battle. At 5.5, I think it's probably fair. At 6.5, I'd have a strong lean to the Eels, and the line is predominantly 5.5, but there is a 6.5 on Sportsbet as well. But I'm even more confident going either team 1 to 12 because the Sharks won't give anything up easily. And hey, I think I said in the preseason, Moses and Brown could be the best halves combo in the comp. Well, Brown signed the richest deal in NRL history, and Moses played like one of the best halves in the comp last week. It was a bold statement that's got a lot more to prove itself, but I do expect that combination can outplay Trindle and Hines, and that should go a fair way to ensuring Para goes close in this one. If you're more bullish on the Eels, just take the 6.5. Of course, if you like Sharks, the 5.5's there for you to lay. You see it my way. I've gone either team 1 to 12. James says if this was an Eels game, I'd be on him. DJ Kaiser, short turnaround off a big game, travel a disaster for the Sharks. Yeah, far from ideal for Cronulla. Ryan, with the Eels being off a bye, Sharks off Golden Point, if you did like Eels, second half line makes sense to me. And that's not a bad call either. I suppose, you're just in that no man's zone of no man's land of sort of, you'd only be able to get a +2.5, +3.5 second half, where I probably prefer 6.5 for the whole game. As Jeff says, great game to kick off the Magic. Absolutely agree with that. Colt, not sure about this match. Expect the Sharks' response, but Eels are on an upward trajectory. Best bet sounds about right. Cheers, guys. When I get a minute, I will put the summary of the best bets in the comments as well. But let's just keep it rolling. So I'm just using the team list document basically as my backdrop so that you can check out the lineups for yourself. And next one that we'll put on the screen is the primetime game on Friday night. Roosters, Dolphins. It's basically pick 'em everywhere. You can get +1.5 on the Fins. I mean, you can even get +1.5 on Roosters at $1.80 as well. I've shared my best bet already. It's going to be Fins +0.5 point first half. What I love about this weekend in general is how many even matchups we have in the fixtures. Now, that doesn't mean every game will go down to the wire, but hopefully a few do. I reckon a few certainly will. And it also just makes for a great debate around who's going to come out on top of these games. So I will share my opinion in every game of who I'm picking to win. And you guys, please do the same. Let me know what the sentiment is amongst our very knowledgeable follower base. Robinson hasn't changed his 17, as you'll see the starting lineup on the screen. They stood tall on Anzac Day. Sanders Smith, a career day. Hugo Savallo is looking more and more comfortable each and every week. Had a great game his last trip to Suncorp, of course, if you recall, when the Roosters knocked off the Broncos. Dolphins have also played great when they've played at Suncorp this year, defeated each of last year's grand finalists in their two most recent games at this venue. But Daniel Saifidi is quite a big out. That loss was really felt in the second half against Canberra, where the Fins relinquished that 18-point lead. Marshall King and Kaufusi, though, will provide great reinforcements at 8 and 9. Of course, I think somebody already called me out, and I posted it on social media. I was unironically claiming the Dolphins were the form team in the comp. When they lit up the Raiders in that first half, and on the back of what they did to Melbourne and Penrith, and of the fact that the Doggies had slipped and Brisbane had lost 2 of the last 3, and if you thought Canberra was a form team, well, the Dolphins were well on top. But then came a 30-0 second half where the Dolphins were dusted. So reality has sort of set in for me and sets in for the Fins as well. Now you sort of take a step back and say there's still only 3 wins from 8. It's not a great position. There's a lot more work that would need to be done. But this is exactly the type of game that if you want to make finals, you expect to win. And that goes for both sides. They both see it as a very winnable game, and each team knows they bring their best, that it will be enough for the 2 points here. So I agree that the line should be very low, but I actually think the wrong team is a slight favourite in this one. As I say, the Roosters are like $1.80, $1.85 range, where I would flip it if I was framing that market myself. I do think you should apply a point for home ground advantage to the Fins, because there will be a majority Dolphins crowd, and they'll really get behind the team. I think that is offset by the Roosters enjoying a 7-day turnaround versus the Dolphins had to go to Canberra and only played on Sunday. So I'm kind of, I'll say, yes, you get home advantage, but it's inopportune spot. So let's call that a wash. And then I think it simply comes down to who do you think's the better team? And as you can see on the screen, you tell me. I know there's more class and experience in the Roosters forward pack, but that's where it ends for mine. Like, I think that the Dolphins have more quality coming in off the bench, the better halves, clearly, with the form of Katoa, but also Nikorima's an absolute handful. And I actually prefer the Dolphins outside backs as well. So I want to play the Fins here. If it was a +2.5, I'd be taking that. As Corey says, JMK, big inclusion. The Fins really have missed him. Well, didn't miss him against the Storm, funnily enough, but certainly missed a full-time hooker in Canberra last week. In particular, also really struggled with the loss of, Kaufusi wasn't there. Saifidi was injured in the first half, and the Dolphins got steamrolled. And that's the key here, that if you can stem the Roosters go forward, then I think that the Dolphins will have the class to take this one out. But I don't necessarily need the Dolphins to win this for my best bet either. It could be 1 try apiece, 2 tries apiece type of scoreline, and we can win with plus half a try in the first half. Call me biased. I always want to highlight this because it is fair to fully disclose that I'm a Dolphins diehard. But and I have not actually faded the Finns yet this season. I didn't really have a bet on the first 3 Finns games. I did actually give a winner in that Souths game, but with the relocation, I didn't count it. Then when I've been on the Dolphins, they have actually covered 4 out of 5, and I didn't play the Dolphins last week. I was worried in part because they were missing quality rake, but I do think that the Dolphins can edge this one. Once again, if I think a side's going to win, but to win my best bet, they've just got to be not losing at half time, then I'm going to take it. It's my second best bet. As Colt says, I hope the sin bin doesn't play a factor this weekend, ruin so many games for punters. Remember that diabolical year. I forget when it was, the crackdown around 2020. Well, probably not 2020 because that was COVID, but was it 21 then? Or maybe 2021. But I think the league is well aware of that. I actually think the league's come out and already said that they're not going to go as far back in time in games to remove a player from a contest. And that's logical. Like if something is so blatant and it's just a really bad miss by the officials, you don't want the player to go unpunished. But it is frustrating when games are being swung and players are getting sat out for incidents that nobody even noticed live. Sometimes not even the ball carrier themselves. Sometimes they pop up and play the ball. At some point you've just got to let the officials control it. Otherwise, you're going to be stopping and watching, a replay of every tackle. So that's how I see Roosters Dolphins. That concludes Friday night. Do you guys agree, or are there people out there who are going to be on the Roosters? Roosters look pretty hot on Anzac Day, in fairness. So, and again, that extra turnaround is definitely meaningful. As Ryan says, 2022 was the crackdown. I think that the NRL is well aware that they don't really want to repeat that one. While they are in a tricky position, the NRL, because they do want to be seen to be doing as much as possible to reduce, direct contact to the head to make the game safer and also to reduce any lawsuits in the future. Let's move to Saturday. Let me update the graphic because we do have a game where I've got a best bet. So does the Padonis and Undertaker. Don't let me forget that. But we'll hear from them after I say my piece on Rabbitohs, Knights, potentially wrong team favoured again in my mind. Although I think the South should be a slight. I think it should be probably pick 'em, to be honest with you. And I think the Knights will win personally, and I'll tell you why. But if you like the Rabbitohs, you can actually lay -1.5. And of course, if you like Newcastle, that is my best bet, +2.5, $1.90 on Ladbrokes, Neds, and Dabble. Okay, the Bunnies are still winless in Melbourne, but did dig deep in that game to help us hit the unders. Trelmit got suspended, though. That sees Whiten move to 6, as you can see, and still no Cody Walker means Sullivan will play 7, Gray back to fullback. Hubner does return from concussion to the bench. Jacob Saifidi and Adam Elliott will bolster the Knights forward pack, and the Knights need all the help they can get after losing in Christchurch to the Warriors. Means that the Knights haven't won a game since round 2. Admittedly, there's a bye 1 week, but still, that's a 5-game losing streak. And I know that Souths, you can't just say because the Knights are on a 5-game losing streak, they'll be more desperate. Like, Souths have lost 3 in a row themselves. But I do think this is a kitchen sink type game for Newcastle because the season's basically on the line. I don't think you can fall to 2 and 6, and you know that a couple of your very best players will play Origin. And I know that the Knights have overcome losing records in past years, but I don't see it again this year. And while Newcastle have been so underwhelming in attack, I do feel like a little bit of it has been fundamentals, that Newcastle's just been dropping the ball, and therefore that this Knights side does not have enough strike and is a little bit too one-dimensional to beat you without a fair share of the ball and with a completion rate sub 70%. But I think a little bit of experience coming back into the pack helps the Knights get an even share of the ball. And it goes back to the fact this is Souths with no Latrell, no Cody Walker, no Cam Murray. That's not the same Souths that you would have envisioned coming into the year. This game can absolutely go either way. I can see the stars shining for the Knights, Ponga and Best, getting a fair share of good ball on the basis of that Knights pack, stepping up against the Bunnies, which is what I expect Novocastrians to do. Now, I've got a clip from the Benonis and Undertaker. I don't have time to review them, and I, prepare completely independently anyway. But they do let me know which game to feed it into. So I would not be surprised if either or both of the boys are with me on this pick. But let's have a listen, because I did go head-to-head with Benonis last week, and he got the better of me there. So let's hear from the Benonis first of all.
G'day guys, Benonis here, and who's pumped for Magic Round? I certainly am. Currently sitting at 5-1, looking to continue the streak on my bet of the week. And this week we're playing another underdog. We're going to go Newcastle Knights at plus 2.5. That's $1.90 on Ladbrokes and Neds. Put simply, I just feel that right now the Knights and Souths, there's not much between these sides. I actually had this rated a pick'em. If anything, probably Knights should be a slight favourite. This is the healthiest that they're going to be in a while for the Knights. They get back their full complement forward pack. We get to see them match up against the South side, who are a little bit depleted. I think there's more disruption for them coming in the halves, with Whiten opted in the 6 instead of Dodd. Clearly he's out of favour. Sullivan I don't trust as a halfback, and I just feel that while the Knights have shown struggles in attack, they've seen enough from them defensively to say that they're going to be in the game for a long period of time. It could go either way. Sets up to be sort of a grinding style of game. Happy to take the points plus 2.5 Newcastle. Good luck. Gamble responsibly.
That's the side I want to be on with the Benonis again this week. Every time one of my best bets has agreed with the sharpshooters, it has gotten up. Let's see what the Undertaker likes. I did see a couple of comments referring to the total. Is he going to make it a triple like with Newcastle or points play?
G'day, TryPod punters. My best bet of the week. I'm going to go under 45.5 in the South versus Newcastle game. That's $1.90 on Sportsbet. Now, what everyone knows about Newcastle is their attack is just hideous, eyes bleed stuff. But what people wouldn't know about the Knights is their defence is actually the second best in the comp. Number one with a bullet is the Bulldogs, but number two, there they are. The Newcastle Knights are only conceding 20 points a game, which is actually really good. On top of that, Souths are only conceding 22 points a game. The average score in a Souths game is 22-16. The average score in a Knights game is 20-10. So 45.5 for me is a bit of a stretch. So enjoy your Magic Round, everyone. Let's cheer for a bludger in this game. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of points. Good luck.
The Undertaker likes under 45.5, as does Ryan, who is a very sharp follower of the pod, in the comments there too. So maybe a Souths team total would be another look in this game as well. Let me know if anyone has a differing opinion. I'll keep it rolling Saturday. This is a beauty as well, and so evenly matched. As you can already see it on the screen, it's Warriors Cowboys. Well, you can sort of see it. Sorry, the comments cover up a little bit. And it's basically a pick 'em. Oh, look, the Cowboys are a slight favourite basically on every bookie. So let's call it Cows minus 1.5, having won 4 in a row. But New Zealand has won 5 of 6 in the Southern Hemisphere. And both these teams have settled squads, so not really any changes to report. I don't give the Cowboys an advantage for being a Queensland team. If you're wondering, such is the support that New Zealand always garner in basically everywhere, but particularly in Brisbane. I also haven't got a best bet on this one. I guess I had a best bet the first 3 games of the round. So this is the first. I don't, because I agree with the books. I have the Cowboys as the slightly better team in this game. Why? Because there's a superior fullback. There is a superior half. And it goes back to the fact that while Aaron Clark has mightily stepped up and Barnett is outstanding, the Warriors do miss Fisher Harris in terms of their ability to elevate to truly play at a top 4 standard, I believe, though that's where the Warriors find themselves right now. And New Zealand has every chance of winning this game. I don't want to underestimate the Warriors like Penrith did a year ago at Magic Round. I look at Berry, he's come back in the last couple of weeks, and Leotawa, that's an exciting centre pairing. But on the recap, you heard me say that Jackson Purdue is my serious origin smoky, given his X-Factor ability and versatility. So I look forward to that duel. And then it's already been brought up in the comments by Ryan Boyle that potential New South Wales hooking duel as well. I had that noted too. Two Blues hopefuls in Egan, who I also mentioned in the recap, is playing as well as any number 9 in the comp, really. And not that Robson's in bad form, but that's one to keep an eye on for sure. And then explosive edge forward weapons as well. You got Nane and Halasima, excitement machine for the Warriors. So if I have to pick it, it goes back to just probably a superior half fullback could be the difference, and the Cowboys may get up by 1 or 2, but that's where the market sits anyway. And I really can see this one being an edgier seat and a moment of brilliance deciding this either way. As Richard says, it's a tough game to pick, that's for sure. And JK says Warriors home game, and I know that JK will be one of many proud Kiwis coming across the ditch for this one, not to mention them out that already live locally. So JK is calling it the game of the round. Colt, either team 1 to 12 and Halasima ATS. Yeah, sometimes players just have that spark, and they do just have seasons where they go to a purple patch of scoring. And Halasima's he's like that every touch is classy and is dangerous. So we move to Saturday night now. And look, it's not the sexiest matchup on paper. It's Tigers Dragons, but it's yet again another one where your guess is as good as mine who's going to win. The Tigers are -1.5 point favorites. Benji discussed the magnitude of that extra time win, how much it meant to get up in front of the home faithful after the conundrum West were in, and whether to show the faith in the talk of the town, Lockie Galvin. He was recalled, set up the first try, played his part in a wonderful, memorable West win. And so Benji names the same 17. And Benji mentioned in that presser just like what a pressure reliever that was, because if West don't win that game, then people will say, well, is there team disharmony, disunity, if that's a word? Should Lockie be playing, or is he a distraction? But you pick the guy and the team plays as well as they played this year and beats a really strong opponent and shows a lot of heart and fights through adversity, then, that just restores a lot of the confidence that may have been lost in such a tumultuous 7 days where West, of course, where the story broke that Galvin wanted out, and then West lose to bottom place Parramatta. Now you're sort of back on track. Having said that, West come into this game sitting 9th, but certainly a team that believe they can make a finals push. But I don't know, West coming 9th, it just feels right. As for St. George, their loss slides them down to 10th. And the Dragons let their coach down, and myself too, because I was on for a best bet on the big day against the Roosters. And as a result, Clarkey and I have alluded to this over several weeks, that Ilias's head was bound to be on the chopping block at some point. And so there's a young man there, as you can see on the screen. I'm not familiar with his game, starting at halfback, and I'm just going to call him LKT out of respect so that I don't butcher. I feel like the first name and last name is a challenge that I want to hear the correct pronunciation. A win like West's achieved on Sunday can do wonders for a team. There is a new level of toughness about these Tigers, a confidence that if we can fight through the adversity and the challenging periods, that we have the class to take opportunities. These are all elements that clearly the Tigers have lacked in seasons past, and especially the last 3 wooden spoon seasons, but it's a different side this year. The issue is, I considered playing West here, but I don't want to go against St. George off such a bad loss. We know that infamously the Dragons are a yo-yo team. Flano often gets a response out of his team. I'm not sure if that's a compliment, because if you can get them to play well after a bad game, why can't you get the Dragons to be consistent? And if Flano could figure that puzzle out, they would have made finals last year. They probably could make it this year. Liam says, Field Dragons at the side, how much did that game take out of the Tigers? Ultimately, probably a pass. And that's a fair call. That, was a lot of energy expended. It's another game where there's a turnaround advantage. Tigers go 6 days versus Dragons 8 days. But I also feel like grabbing a narrow victory and a famous victory can just fill the team with so much confidence and juice that can really fuel them through the week. And I generally like to back a team after escaping with a narrow, uplifting victory. Rather than had the Tigers lost, I would say this would be a terrible spot for West because they would be soul searching and it would take a couple of days just to recover emotionally. Obviously had any of Nico Hines' field goal attempts or Trindle for that matter, had they gone through the post. So I just think it's really hard. That victory for West is worth so much more than 2 points, and Benji said it himself. So similar to the last game, the reason I'm not on is because I agree that the Tigers should be a slight favourite, but I also think both are more than capable of winning. And I think ultimately this game just comes down to who wants it more, who's going to be grittier, who's going to be tougher, and who's going to be willing to endure more pain and and do the 1%ers and get on loose balls and do the little things that the desperation plays that the Tigers did, that they don't win that game without so many efforts by a range of players. And that's what it'll take, I think, to win this one on Saturday night. Let me know how you guys see it. Peter Volandi says the Tigers defense will do it. We move to Sunday. This is the only game now. Titans, Bulldogs, the only game of the round with a line greater than a converted try. So it is by far the largest line of the weekend, which is 11.5, also as high as 12.5 in locations. To set the scene for you, the Gold Coast have lost Jamin Jolliffe, and Fafita is relegated to the reserves. You can only see the starting lineup. Sorry, that's about the best I can do without condensing it too much. But Fafita is not even on the interchange bench this week. The Dogs, of course, were destroyed at this ground. I know it all too well. They were actually my best bet last round, one of my best bets. And on top of the insult, it's not injury, but it's suspension that's going to remove Burton, Curran, and Tupanua from this game. So Bailey Hayward starts at 6. You've got a Titans side that's lost 4 in a row and blown double-digit leads in the last 2. What the Titans have going for them, I suppose, is that they knew they'd be playing top of the ladder Canterbury, but the Dogs won't be full strength because of that ill discipline and because of those suspensions. And that's why several sharp members of the TryPod group jumped out and said, as soon as they saw that Thursday night game, said take the 10.5 with the Titans in the look-ahead markets for Magic Round. But what the Dogs have in their favour here is a nice long turnaround to think about how bad and ill-disciplined they were against Brisbane and where they got well and truly humbled. And that's a classic case of a good team off a bad loss. And I will give credit to everyone who comments and shares their opinion. I sure do appreciate it. And so many people are willing to, put it on the line before the game and let me know how they see it. Of course, I get a few after the game, which, look, you still can have good observations after a game, but a lot of things people tell me is all the things they knew about a game before it happened. But I want you to share that with the community so we can take advantage of that. But look, a common question that's come up in the last few weeks is, are Canterbury true contenders, or have they taken advantage of a cakewalk draw? And if you thought the former, then you were sort of proven correctly when it was 34-0 and it was game over in Brisbane on Thursday night. But I do still think the Bulldogs are a high-quality team. Now, going into the season, I did think that the Titans could have a good year and really buy into Dez's regime. And the Titans knew that they had ability. But if that team could find a tougher exterior and a bit of fight, then I thought the Titans could be a really dangerous team this year and an under-the-radar side. But the fight has been few and far between. And you've still got no Kinney or Campbell in this side, not to mention Fafita should be there based on his pay packet and what he's capable of. But if there's a trust factor that's missing, then this is not the full strength or optimal Titans side. So I could only play Canterbury if I had to play this game. I really did think about laying the 11.5, in fact, especially after I took the Dogs last week and got instantly embarrassed. Now I feel like they'll probably turn the tables and be up 30 at halftime in this one. But the issue is, I think punters are just sophisticated and savvy enough to forgive one bad run in the wet and just being slow off the mark. Well, very slow off the mark. That's putting it kind. But you saw a little bit of fight back second half by the Bulldogs. You don't forget what they've done in the first 7 rounds this season. And the thing is that it takes a very brave punter to put their hard-earned on the Titans, so there won't be many Titans backers out there. So if you do like the Bulldogs, play them tonight. Play them as early as you can. Lay the 11.5. It's not going to go to single digits. I've already seen a line as high as 12.5. I'm not quite playing it because I think the Dogs are probably too popular of a pick, but I'll leave the Bulldogs as a lean. Ryan saying weird game. Line seems a bit big, but don't want to be on the Titans or fade the Dogs this week. So when you got conflicting factors, then that can be good, a good option to stay away. We do have a pick on this game, though. Benny Williamson, who has picked a try scorer that's gotten up the last 2 weeks, has a play in this one. Let's have a listen.
G'day, TryPod fam. As always, thanks again for having me on. Last week we got a winner with Jackson Purdue going over at $2.45. Took him a while, but we got there eventually. This week we're going to take Alofi Khan Pereira against the Bulldogs, Suncorp. Now, the bookies have written the Titans off, so have I. Go to every game as a member, and we've been atrocious the last couple of weeks. But our favourite left side scores 50% or over 50% of our tries, and that Bulldogs right edge has conceded over 70% of the tries against them, which is slightly exaggerated because they haven't leaked as many tries as other sides, but left wingers have scored 50% of the tries against the Bulldogs. Khan Pereira is lightning. He missed out last week. I don't think he's going to miss out this week. You can get him for $2.10 on Sportsbet. Best of luck if you follow. Let's see if we can make it 3 in a row. Cheers, lads.
Like the comments that are coming in too. Colt, who we know is a staunch Gold Coast supporter, is shocked that Randall is getting the 11 shirt over Fafita, something going on behind the scenes. So doesn't that weaken the left edge attack? I suppose Fermor has made that sort of spot his own, and he's a threat there. And Benny's gave some great stats and insights into why he likes the Titans' left side attack against the Dogs' right side defense. Liam with a comment there about the total, 47.5 seems high. Dogs rested and should tighten up defense, and the Gold Coast are no world beaters with that spine. And you talk about that spine, as I said before, such a shame, but missing Keanu Kinney, missing Jaden Campbell. And I'll just add the field factor that when we get to Sunday, is it a little bit chopped up and is it less of a fast track? And you got someone like AKP, as Paul says, is 220 on 365, so always shop around. He's a player that really enjoys that lightning track at Seabus, and Suncorp is a good deck, but this will be, that will be game number 6. So something to consider. And that's also, baked into what the weather does as well. So if you get a bit of rain in combination with back-to-back games, then I definitely would lean into unders rather than overs as the weekend progresses. Now, the next game, I don't know if it's really worth talking about because, Brisbane at home and they're playing bottom of the ladder. So it should be a foregone conclusion, right? I suppose we could also say it's a rematch of the 2023 grand final. So, geez, I'm so excited for the slate this weekend. Brisbane are 3.5 point favourites. That's even trending to 5.5 in some places. Ricky is the only inclusion to a team that toppled the top Dogs on Thursday. For Penrith, Garner is in at centre, Somerton at 9, and both sides missing an elite outside back with To'o still out for Penrith, and of course Walsh is injured for Brisbane. Penrith back down in the dumps after being pulled apart in an entertaining game against Manly, while Brisbane bounced back the right way from 2 straight defeats. I mentioned on the recap, Willison playing left second row is really elevating the whole left side attack for Brisbane, keeping defenders honest because you can't tackle this guy one-on-one when he gets turned underneath. But that's a mouth-watering head-to-head when you look at his counterpart is of course Liam Martin for the Panthers. So that there's just so many reasons why this game will be so good. Brisbane at home in the day is a beautiful sight, honestly. And you know that while there be supporters of all teams, that it will be the hottest ticket in town and plenty of Broncos fans in the stands. And I feel like Penrith's title defense is slipping away now. I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels like that. I said on Sunday, if I have to pick it, I say Penrith misses the top 8. Not that they're not capable and not that they won't make finals, but if it's make or miss, I'm betting 50-50. And if I had more time, I actually would check what those odds are up to, but I'm sure Penrith must be outsiders to make the finals. And I talked about how the rep season is going to really kill Penrith. You never get a team that's last that's still going to have 4 or 5 players picked in 3 Origin games. But where Penrith's still strong, how about that rep front row? Because, of course, Collins played for Australia last year, Leota for New Zealand, and then you know that's led the way in all of Brisbane's best performances this year as well. So which front row gets on top could well decide this. Cobbo at fullback, if anything, was an upgrade for Brisbane last week. While Edwards, you do not want to underestimate him, still a machine. And, of course, you've got the Iceman Cleary, still the best player on the planet too. That's why I give Penrith a real chance here, although I understand Brisbane's got to be the favourite. They are home, even though it's not listed that way in the fixtures. It will be a home advantage to Brisbane. They do want that revenge. Correct me if I'm wrong, and Barney would know. Brisbane didn't beat Penrith last year, right? So they haven't really sort of exercised those demons, and no game's going to make up for 2023. But I do feel like Brisbane would love to deal Panthers defeat this weekend in front of a packed house. But I actually lent to the +5.5 just because of the desperation and class that the champs have. Not that I'm picking Penrith to win, but I think Penrith can cover and go close here, and it can be anybody's game. But what I landed on was either team 1 to 12, which again is 180 on 365, because I don't see Brisbane being blown out in front of that parochial crowd. But I do think Penrith gets up for the occasion, similar to what we saw in Las Vegas, where the Panthers put on a show, and I expect nothing less on Sunday. And then lastly, one game left to break down, guys, and how good is this? We've got arguably the 2 form teams of the comp. Now, that's with respect to who do you guys think are the best for the hottest teams in the comp right now? I mean, the Dogs, you could still argue Canterbury outside of one bad game, but that was the most recent game. New Zealand deserves to be in the conversation. I won't say Brisbane because they did lose 2 of the last 3. So I'll tell you that I think the 2 form sides of the comp are, unfortunately, I would have put my Finns in there, but not when you get a 30-0 second half shellacking. So I'm going to say it is these 2 facing off on Sunday night. Melbourne and Canberra. The Storm are -5.5 point favourites, but you can get a +6.5 as well if you do like the Green Machine. Farlongo cleared of a concussion. He starts on the wing, which is important because Melbourne has had some outside back injuries. And then Nas and Kamakamita are both on track to return and add some serious size and power to the Storm pack. No changes for Canberra. Why would you? Cause me to eat crow and shed a few tears in that second half on Sunday, and showed the Storm how it's done to beat the Dolphins and beat them well in the end. I could only play Melbourne in this game. For me, it's a neutral venue. Melbourne are still the clear better team, even missing Harry Grant, and Bronson Garlick is a pretty capable replacement. I just think there's too much quality and speed for Canberra to contend with. I know that Melbourne will not overlook Canberra, given the form of the Raiders and also the most recent result for Melbourne at this venue. So to me, it justifies a line of, let's say, 5.5, 6 points. But having said that, I recognise the Raiders' run is real and the Raiders' form is real. And I've been very slow to recognise that this year, to be fair. Like, to call myself out, I've underestimated Canberra, but it truly is a team brimming with confidence. They fight all 80. They're up for any challenge. You've got young players that are improving before our eyes, like Ko Weeks, Timoko, Strange, Nicholson, but you've also got the old heads there that are leading the way in key positions, like Fogarty, who just signed a deal with Manly today, Tapine, Hudson Young. It's the right mix for a team that definitely can make a top 4 push this year. And I think Canberra's in this game. I'm just saying why I believe Melbourne should be a try favourites. But I'm not saying Melbourne are a sure thing at all. Definitely see the argument to play +6.5 if you do like Canberra. Let me know in the comments if that's the way you'd be going, or do you lay the 5.5 with Melbourne? The beauty of a couple of games this round where you can find a line either side of that really key number is you just might win on both sides if it does land exactly 6. I think I'm still just finding it hard to overcome my preseason feelings where there was such a big gap between these sides in my eyes coming into the year. But clearly Canberra's been massively upgraded in my view as well, and it's gotten a lot closer. And then you take the captain out of Melbourne Storm and it lowers their ceiling as well. So I do think the Storm will salute, but the beauty of this game is I think Melbourne will have to be on their A game to earn the 2 points here. Peter says Raiders feel like they're having a their year type of season. And it is starting to feel that way because, of course, 2019, the first year of Magic Round, I was at the Raiders game in 2019 where the Raiders played the Roosters, and that was a really high quality game, and it ended up being the grand final, And is there a parallel to this year? Could this be the grand final in a few months' time? It's not insane. It's not as crazy as it probably would have sounded 8 weeks ago. So definitely a good argument that can be made for either side, and that's why I just think the winner is going to have to play an exceptional brand of footy. That's how I see the 8 games. You've heard my 4 best bets. You've heard from 3 of our sharpshooters. Nicole just wasn't able to get the tip in for today's show, but he'll definitely share what he likes in the group as well. And as always, guys, continue the conversation. Let me know what you like in the comments of this YouTube, Instagram, Facebook videos, wherever. Hit me up. Let me know what you like or don't like for the weekend ahead. Enjoy the footy, especially if you're getting along to it. I haven't confirmed my plans yet, but I'm definitely hoping that I can absorb some of this action myself. Benny and the bets, I think just his work is not allowing him to get the clip done on a Tuesday arvo, but Benny has been sharing a tip of the week, and I don't believe Benny has lost yet this season. That's Benny Howard. So he's another valued member of the community. You know how it is, guys. Like we recorded has been at 4:30 Queensland time. Only in the last couple of weeks, it's been 5:30. A lot of people are still, at other job commitments. So if we can get clips from Benny Howard, we certainly will. But otherwise, that's why you want to be in the TryPod Punters Tips forum to see his fire picks and reasoning. So that'll wrap it for tonight, guys. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy your Magic Round footy, and I'll be here on Sunday to recap it all. Lego.